So back in the day, I had a copier repair business, and I priced the copier repair business, the services that I did, just like every other copier repair business around, because I didn't know how else to price it. So I figured out what they charged, and I just essentially charged the same middle ground, right? Thinking everything's hunky-dory. So I do some services, I fix some copiers, I fix some printers, and I'm doing okay. But I look at the money coming in, and it's really not enough to be sustainable. I was okay enough to keep in business. But I figured I'm doing a better job than the other guys, so I should probably charge more money. So the fear set in about charging more, right? Because your price was this, and now I'm asking or trying to figure out, one, how much do I raise it? Two, what's going to be the fallout from raising it? And three, well, what happens if I don't raise it, right? So I decided, let's just go for it. We can talk about numbers and all that kind of stuff later, but in the end, I raised the rates, just waiting for that fallout to happen, and lo and behold, not a word. Not a customer said a thing. So I essentially increased my profit by easily over 20%, and no one said a thing, which made me think two thoughts. One, that's awesome, and two, why didn't I do that 5 years ago? So,
welcome to Diary of a Worthy Pursuit.
How to get what you truly want in life and business.
And today we're going to talk about 3 strategies to increase revenue.
Yay!
You know, I think what you went through is something that all business owners, especially when they're starting out, go through, because we have this idea of, well, I just want the business.
Right.
So some money is better than no money. Let me just charge what I think they'll pay.
I think there's a fear that you're going to charge too much and then no one will show up.
Right.
And I feel like that fear is stronger, even though I don't think it's right, than charging too much. Or just the fear of not being able to even afford to stay in business, which is terrible.
Well, and there's also this, I think, planning that goes into it when you start a business of, you know, here's what my time I think is worth. Mm-hmm. And especially if you quit a job to start a business, you think, well, I was probably getting paid about this per hour if you do all of your division and stuff.
Right.
So I want to make about that per hour. And then when you start extrapolating that out, you say, well, then here's how I get to my prices, if you think in that way. So you could do that and then say, okay, to deliver this product or this service takes me 10 hours times what I was making hourly. This is what I should charge. But then I think what we miss in that is this idea of, but there's so much more that goes into starting a business than just the time that you're on stage. So you have to factor that in when you're pricing things. And I think so many of us forget that there's so much more to business, like starting your website and all the administrative work and marketing it and sales calls that you don't get paid for. So you have to account for that somewhere else.
Yeah, the marketing, the taxes, the training, the tools, the vehicles in the case if you're going on site and stuff like that.
Right.
All that overhead that when you're looking at as an employee, you're just like, hey, I made my $20 or whatever.
Exactly.
All I have to do is charge 21 and I'll be fine. But no, it's not how that works.
Well, and then when you think about how do you increase revenue so you can keep this business going, because we're really fortunate if we make it 5 years when you start your own business.
Yeah.
Then you start thinking about, well, what's the value I provide? And what do I really need to get to make sure that this business is sustainable, both, you know, for my clients, but also for my family, to make sure that I'm making the money that I need to live the kind of life I want.
Yeah. I feel like money is a way, if you have a negative connotation about money, then you'll be afraid to charge what you're worth or what people value.
Right.
Right? And so then that'll come off. You'll end up being the cheapest. And when you're cheapest, somebody else, there's always somebody that is willing to do it for less. So it's somewhat of a race to the bottom.
Yeah.
And nobody wins.
Right.
Or if you charge more or have more of a relationship with money where money is a tool, or you can look at money as a way to keep score. Like think of Warren Buffett had something like that where the having money to be rich and all that kind of stuff, shy of the private jet, that's pretty cool. But it's more just like, that's how I know I'm winning.
Right.
That's how I know, that's how I'm measuring successful, because it's very objective, right? I have money in the bank, everything's cool. If that money's in parentheses, things are not cool.
Right.
So it's a way, just have a good or a better relationship with money.
But to that point, we want to be in the green because we need our revenue to grow so we can continue to serve more people. Why we got in the business anyway. Maybe hire more people onto our team so we can expand or do the things that, you know, as you grow your business, there's so many things that you just don't have the time to do anymore that you wish you did. And one person just isn't enough. So you have to look at how am I going to grow the team in a smart way. And really, revenue helps do a lot of those things.
Oh, absolutely. Plus, there's the whole mistakes, the problems that happen, right? Whether that's pandemic or a flat tire or something like that. What was the definition of entrepreneurship was being able to afford the mistakes you make?
Oh, I love
Something
that
like
description.
that. Yeah, we were just talking. I just hired 3 employees yesterday.
Okay.
So those 3 employees, I'm going to have to pay to train.
Right.
I have to send them equipment, right? So we got thousands of dollars that have already gone out. I'm going to have to invest thousands of dollars more, while they will have no direct revenue coming in until they get trained enough to speed and actually start answering calls. So that money just doesn't fall from the sky.
Right.
And I can't call up my customers and be like, funny story, I got a new employee. It's going to take them a month or 2 to get up to speed. Do you mind just giving me a loan? Right? Like, that's not going to happen.
Right. So these are the reasons that we want to help you find some ways to increase revenue. So let's start with our first strategy today. And this is the one that I feel like most people focus on when they're looking to increase revenue. And that's just attract more customers.
It's easiest, right? Because I feel like it's maybe not easiest, it's the most obvious, right? Because without customers, you don't have much of a business.
Right.
So you need customers, and if you want to make more money, let's get more customers.
Right. And so a lot of this, we talked about how much to charge, and that certainly comes into play here. We'll probably talk a little bit more about that as we go along here. But attracting more customers, I feel like to some people, and marketing or sales in general, is really this black box that they feel they can't tap into. Maybe you became a plumber or a service provider, or, you're serving people in other ways, but marketing and sales isn't really your jam. So this is something where you got into business to serve, not to run a business, and it can be hard for people.
Right.
So what are some of the ways that you have attracted new customers in your business?
Oh, man. Marketing is the main one, and then referrals are a huge one. And I guess between those 2, that has been it.
What have you done for marketing that, I'm sure you've tried a bunch of things. What
Oh
has
my gosh. Oh my gosh. I'm laughing because with my copy repair company, we did some TV ads on early morning news. And it was interesting. Let me sidestep a bit. I started that business in 2006. 2008 happens and the world kind of falls apart a little bit. And a bunch of big companies were pulling their marketing. So there was a small moment in time, where small little companies like mine could actually afford to be on TV and radio because our competition, the big companies, were pulling away. I don't know if you remember back then, 2008, 2009, you could buy a full-size truck for $10,000.
Oh, the world is so different today.
Right. Like they couldn't give away vehicles,
Yeah.
right? So all these companies, the car companies and stuff like that, they weren't advertising like they were. So then I had salespeople knocking on my door, and I'm like, it must really be bad if you're knocking on this door, 'cause I got bags of money, but they're like tea bags, not truckloads. So anyways, I ended up on TV, and which was cool, and I ended up on radio. I did a few radio station ads, and those were cool. And then I would ask people, hey, how did you hear about us? And then they'd say, I saw your billboard. And I'm like, you don't have a billboard. I didn't say that. You're just like, oh, great.
Right.
But it's funny because that means that I hit them enough times that they had no idea where they heard of me.
That's funny because I used to work for a marketing firm, and one of the things that we used to explain to clients is you probably don't remember where you first heard of Coca-Cola, but they're around in so many places and they're branding themselves in such ways that you just know them. They're top of mind. So when you think, well, do you want a soda? You think, oh, I want a Coke.
Oh, sure.
So there's this whole top of mind awareness thing. But that can be really hard when you're just starting out a business because that takes investment, that takes money, that takes more revenue, right? So some of the things that we can try maybe when we don't have a lot of revenue to throw at marketing are things like just making sure you're on social media. Making sure that you're growing an email list, I think, is huge. And if you haven't taken a look at maybe how to develop a lead generation funnel where you have a website, you offer something for free that folks download so you get their email and then you can market to them. Email marketing is, I think, extremely underrated because you've got a warm list of folks who are semi-interested. They opted in to join your list. And now you can email them once a week and tell them what's going on or tell them why they should buy from you.
Sure.
So that when they are ready to buy what you're offering, you're top of mind in a cheaper way than having to invest a lot of money in, public facing or traditional ads.
Yeah, mass market is extremely, what I would probably say, cost prohibitive.
Well,
to a
especially when
typical
you're starting
smaller
out.
business.
Right.
I mean, a billboard, back in the day was, I don't know, $5,000, I think they said a month on the Beltline.
Oh, wow.
And that was probably 10 years ago,
Sure.
so I don't know what it is now.
I have
Probably
no idea.
more. Maybe it went down during COVID because there wasn't traffic.
Sure.
Whatever it was, that's a big nut. And to think, I remember the ad people being like, okay, let's look at revenue that you would get from this potential. And they weren't looking at profit, they were looking at revenue. So they're like, look, this $5,000 billboard can net you $10,000. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I make $1,500 on that 10 grand.
Right.
So I'm losing $3,500, and that's success in the salesperson's mind.
Right.
So it's kind of one of those, like, how much can I afford to spend on the presumption that it works?
Yeah.
Because there's also, in the end, it's an investment, like the
Right.
stock market, and it may fail. That billboard may go up, and the world sees it, and they don't do a thing. Or there's no clear call to action, or...
Well, I think you just hit on a huge one, is that whatever you do, make sure that there's a call to action that's driving to some kind of business. What's the next best step to take to get folks towards you? Whether that's, call for a free consultation, or, set up a meeting for a free quote if you're providing roofs for folks, Something like that I think is really helpful, because they're more likely to buy as soon as they've filled out a form.
Right.
You've already have a little micro commitment from them, so getting them to buy after that is a lot easier. But let's go back to this idea of referrals, because I think that this is another really affordable way to attract more customers. How have you tried to increase referrals in your business?
We incentivize financially our clients to refer. Because in the end, our clients with the call answering service are small businesses. They're busy, right? They're running around with their hair on fire all the time.
Right.
So when I call them up and be like, hey, do you know anybody that needs our service? They're like, you know what? I'll get to that in about 20 years. Right? Right now I'm spinning so many plates that your plate is not important. So when we throw money, a fair amount of money, to them, then they pay a tiny modicum of attention.
Yeah.
And we do get a fair amount of referrals from clients that have other, let's say, vendors that they use that they can't get a hold of. So they want those vendors to have our service so that they can actually get through. So then they'll be like, hey, you never answer your phone, talk to this company, we use them, they're great, so that when I call you, you'll actually answer your phone.
That's a huge compliment. That works out really well.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Something that a service that I used for me was trying to develop social proof, right? So we want to buy from people we know, like, and trust. And the way to get more people to buy from you is to build that trust. And video does a really nice job of that.
Right.
So adding videos to your website, or providing some, thought leadership is wonderful. But getting your customers to speak on video for you can be really hard.
Oh my gosh.
So this gal, I used one of her coaching services, and she sent me a link. And it was so teed up and easy. And I'll have to go pick out the service. But she sent me a link, and I opened it. And there were prompts. So it was like, I'd like you to talk about where your business was before you started working with me. And then I hit record. And for a minute, I recorded my answer to that question. And then I hit stop and hit next. Then it went through and asked me a series of questions. Where's your business now, afterwards? And so it really gave me nice prompts. But at the end of it, because I did this testimonial, she gave me a lovely Amazon gift card.
Wow.
And that was, not cash in the bank, but pretty darn close.
Right.
And it was so worth it. And now I have a friend who was like, I just saw you on this gal's website that you did a testimonial, and I'm signing up. So it is, even if you don't get a direct referral, even asking for testimonials and providing something in what am I looking for? In response.
Right.
Is really helpful.
Yeah. In addition to that, I paid a nut to my employees to ask and get reviews from clients.
Yeah.
Because a lot of clients, right, super busy, spinning plates, hair on fire. For us to ask them to leave a review, even though it's 30 seconds out of their life, you give them a link, they could probably do it at a stoplight. Still, their mind's going 50 million directions.
Right.
So we asked them, and I had it so that we would leave a review for them if we had some connection to their service, and it wasn't just like a, sure, they're awesome kind of thing. Like we had some knowledge of it. Try to keep it as legit as possible. And then there's some reciprocation involved. Because almost every business owner knows the value of reviews. I still don't quite understand them because we're trusting people we've never met, but we still, we see that 4.5 stars and we're like, yes.
Yeah, we love that social proof.
Yeah.
You gotta know that someone else trusted you, so we can.
Right.
Another thing when you're thinking about attracting more customers, though, I think, is just going through what works for you, but making sure that those folks that you know know about your business. This was actually one of the hardest things for me when I started my business. Was I work in health coaching and focus coaching, but I've seen so many people who have MLMs or things like that on social media, kind of talking about what they're doing. And they might be doing wonderful things, but people react negatively when you talk about business on your personal profiles. And so I really struggled with that for a while, because I thought, I don't know if I'm ready to share my story and have everyone else think that I'm just that person pushing my stuff. But I needed a mindset shift, right? To say, well, I will never help any of these people if they don't know that I'm capable of helping them.
Right.
So there's really this step of, for me, I had to get out of my own way, but this step of making sure that the people that you know what you're doing.
Oh, that's fair.
And then making sure they know who your ideal client is, so they can be watching for that.
All right. So when they see that, they can mention or put them in touch with you.
Another place when we're talking about ideal clients is networking events. And certainly there's big networking events like chambers or things like that, but there's also smaller ones that maybe only have one position from each industry, so you don't feel like you're fighting each other for referrals. And in these places, it's really wonderful to talk about your ideal client or what you're looking for. I was just in one of mine last week saying, hey, I can help make sure that your gut is healthy after you've traveled out of the country. So a good referral for me is anyone who's traveled out of the country in the past 6 months. And when you get really specific like that, it's much easier for people to give you business or refer someone to you when you're being very clear on who you're looking for.
Yeah, ask for anything, you get nothing.
Right.
Ask
I
for
can help
specific.
anyone.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyone, anytime, anywhere. Nail it. It's interesting. I want to touch on something that I have found with a lot of small businesses, and that is a fear of, maybe not fear, a desire, probably based on fear, not to grow. It's the one person, let's say, there was an arborist that was a client of ours. We tripled his business in less than 6 months.
Wow.
And it wasn't that hard. All we did was answer the phone, right? So he wasn't doing that. And he calls me up and he's like, James, I got to quit your service. And I was like, dude, what are you talking about? We tripled your business. He's like, yep, I don't want to manage. I just want to climb trees. So it's interesting because I was, or still am, right? Grow, right? It's grow or die, just like a tree.
Right.
And he wanted to just be his one-man show that has his brother-in-law or something help him out every once in a while. And I said, I get that, right? No problem. Do what you want to do with your business. But let me ask you something. You're late 40s. Sooner or later, you're going to outgrow your ability to climb trees. Or you're going to fall from a tree, right? Accident's going to happen. You're going to bust your leg. And then your livelihood at that moment, ready or not, is gone. Where if you grow your business and you have employees and you have other people that can kind of help you, if you break your leg, it's a bad 6 weeks or a few months, whatever. It's not devastating to your livelihood.
Right.
And he just like, no, just want to climb trees. And his business does very well, comfortable for him. And he's like, when I'm in a tree, I can't answer the phone. When I'm not in a tree and I'm in my recliner, I can't answer the phone. So I'm self-sustaining. Like as far as the ability to get business. And I thought that is the craziest, arguably the dumbest way to run a business. But as far as I know, he hasn't broken his leg, so he's cool.
For now.
Yeah, I mean, that was years ago. Maybe he has.
We're not wishing anything on him.
No, but it's one of those things where like even pandemic happens, right?
Right.
Or there is always going to be a problem of some kind. Every single story we've read, every movie we've watched, the premise is always there's a problem.
Right.
So for us to expect that in life we're not going to have problems is just artificial. It's just not going to happen.
Well, and I think that that's fair to think about what is your goal for your business and hopefully push yourself beyond your comfort zone, right? Otherwise, why did you get in business?
Right, just be an employee.
Right.
You can climb trees then.
So this idea of attracting customers, though, I think is scary for people because you need to be consistently attracting them. You need to have a funnel of folks who are interested at all times because they're not all going to jump at once. Sometimes there's months where you have 5 people sign up and then there's another month where you might have 0.
Right. So
you really need to be able to sustain and keep that funnel of folks who are interested full because you don't know how long their buying cycle is going to be.
Right.
For something like a call service where you're representing their business, it might take them a little longer to trust you. So maybe their sales cycle isn't a day.
Right.
It's a little longer than that. If I'm buying a car, maybe my cycle's a little longer because I have to do research and things like that. But if I'm in the market for a set of wireless headphones, my sales cycle's probably a day. I want those things and
Minutes.
I want them now, right?
Right.
Amazon, what's your buyer's choice?
Yeah.
So I think that that's really important to understand too, is you have to have that funnel full enough so you're accommodating for the fact that it might take people a little while before they're ready to click buy.
Right. I think of 2008 again. The construction industry, a lot of people working on referrals, and before then it was booming.
Right.
And then all of a sudden things dry up. All these people that were relying exclusively on referrals, that referral pool went away because they weren't doing business. So then if you're not doing business, referrals can't come in.
Right.
Because no one can refer no one.
Right.
So it's interesting because there are other businesses that did very well because they had all these marketing things and all these things coming in, so that they were large enough and smart enough to take the hit and be able to survive it. And others are just like, had fold up shop.
Right.
So it's interesting how, I guess, being an employer with employees, I can understand not wanting to deal with that. But on the flip side, you kind of have to.
If you want to stay afloat.
Yeah, in most businesses, not necessarily all, but you have to have a multiplier of some kind so you're not trading time for money.
Right.
Which we've talked about before, I think.
So ultimately, I think when you're looking to attract more customers, start where you're comfortable and expand. You know, if you're comfortable on video, then start there. If you're comfortable with social media or you're comfortable networking and getting in front of people, start there. Start with the path of least resistance and then expand. But ultimately, we always want to have people in that funnel.
I would also mention to go, like, it depends where your clients are, right?
Absolutely.
So if I'm targeting 80-year-old people, my email list probably isn't going to do so much.
Exactly.
But
Unless
maybe
they're real savvy 80-year-olds.
Yeah, but if you sponsor a bingo hall or something, I don't know, right? Or something, just go where your clients are, not where you necessarily
Yes,
think.
great point.
I think of that with, like, a lot of clients of ours are probably sports people. And I'm like, I don't get into sports, watching sports and stuff like that. So part of me is like, you should totally advertise on sports channels where a lot of our clients would be. But on the other part, I'm just like, I don't even know what they listen to. I'm not in that world. So.
Well, and I think there's this level too of where are people, you can ask people where they're getting their information, but they don't always know or pay attention. So I did some market research before I started my business and asked, where are you getting your health information and where do you trust it from? And it really took people some time to think through that. They're like, I might follow some people on Instagram and I read some articles that are served up to me, but they don't really, they can't pinpoint that one place where they know they're going for that kind of information.
Right.
So it is a lot of trial and error. But I think you're absolutely right. Make sure that you're fishing where the fish are biting.
Right. Fair. Totally fair. What do we have next here?
All right.
Increase average sale?
So our next strategy, increase average sale. So you can start that by increasing revenue. Increasing your price.
Right.
So if you did nothing else, just charge a little bit more money.
Or a lot
more. And see what happens. There's totally a self-worth thing attached to how much you charge. And I think that, to your point earlier, some of us have this fear of, well, what if I charge more and nobody shows up?
Right. It's much easier to go down than it is to go up in price. Because you can say there's a sale, but you can't say funny story. I won't say you can't. It's more difficult to say funny story. We raised our rates 50%, right?
Right.
But you can have 50% off sale and people are like, oh my gosh, right? I know when my wife goes to Target, she goes for an item and she comes out with a bus full of stuff.
They're great at that.
It's on sale. We can't afford not to buy it, right?
Right. That's so true. Well, but herein I think lies one of the strategies to increasing your average sale is maybe you're offering the same item, but you're bundling in other services that folks might want when they're buying said item. So I just heard this really great story the other day about a pet store. So let's say I'm a new pet owner. I have a puppy who's 8 months old. And so when we went in, we bought our little collar for this tiny little thing that has now grown to be 60 pounds. But at one point, he was this big. So we bought a little collar. But what didn't happen that could have is my $15 purchase could have made that pet store a lot more money if they said, oh, I see you buying a small collar. did you just get a new puppy? Are you expecting one? And if I would have said yes, they could have been like, oh, well, with new puppies comes potty training, so you're going to want these puppy pads, and maybe you want a dog bed, and here are some training treats, or here are the foods we recommend. Sign up for puppy classes.
Right.
All of these things. So my $15 purchase could have gone to like $250.
Yeah.
Or maybe $200 with then a monthly fee for puppy classes if I came every 6 months. So just thinking about what else do people want when they're buying your service is really helpful.
And what is the risk to the dog store, right?
Oh, absolutely nothing.
The ask.
Right.
Right? And if you say no, who cares?
Exactly.
But if you say yes, love.
Well, and I think therein lies the problem in the question that we ask. So I heard another story about a mattress company. So someone was consulting this mattress company, and they were consulting the salespeople. And so let's say you come into my mattress store to buy a mattress, and I say, oh, hey, is there anything I can help you find? You might say, oh, no, I'm just looking.
No, just looking.
Great.
Just
All
came
right.
here to kill time.
Right. So I might say, okay, cool. Well, we've got this President's Day sale. Take this off or free delivery, whatever. And I'm already discounting my price.
Right.
And so I'm cutting my average sale. But what I could do instead is say, when you come in, I know you came into the mattress store. You're already looking for a mattress. So I could say,
Right, hopefully.
so what is it about your mattress that you don't like? And now I have you talking about all the problems of your mattress.
Right.
Oh my gosh, it's old, it's got a lump in the middle, it's too firm, but my wife likes it firm, but I don't. So we need one of those. We heard that there's something where there's a split. So help us with that.
Yeah.
And now I know what problem you're trying to solve. I can help you solve that problem, and I haven't discounted my product at all.
Right. Find the pain.
Exactly. And then speak to that pain and be able to sell at what the mattress is worth.
Right.
Not start on a discount.
Interesting. I like that. Twist the knife a little bit.
Right.
That was the sales training that I had, was that you find the pain and then you twist the knife.
Interesting.
Because a lot of times people will hide and they'll be like, I'm just browsing, right? I had nothing better to do with my time but stare at mattresses. And just like, is that really why you're here?
Uh-huh.
But they try to lie and hide because they don't want to be sold, but they do want to buy. So what you're doing is saying, I'm going to give you a reason to buy. You came in with one, let me help you find more.
Right.
Instead of saying, you obviously came here because you love spending money, so let me discount it, right?
Right.
So yeah, twisting the knife is very helpful to make a sale.
It is. Well, and if you're solving someone's problem, they don't see you as a salesperson.
Yeah, right. Maybe I worded that wrong, right? It's not necessarily making a sale, it's helping them make a decision.
Yes.
Which a lot of people are not that great at.
No.
And they need help.
Well, we make something like 30,000 decisions a day, and they're little things.
Is it really?
There's so many. There's so much
Wow.
decision fatigue. And that's why when you go to make dinner at night, you're like, oh, I just can't even, let's get takeout.
You run out.
Yeah. You just
I've used my 30,000.
You run out of the ability to make decisions because you've just gotten there. So it's really this idea of how can you help them make a better decision. All right, so our next strategy is increase the frequency of purchase. And, really, I think through the pandemic, one of the things that we learned and businesses learned, subscriptions were a really great way to get some recurring revenue.
As a business, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge. You can see a lot of businesses going to that. QuickBooks, I just saw they're getting rid of their desktop version.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they're going purely subscription. Love it or hate it. Adobe, when they did that with Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop, their stock went, whoa.
Well, but even before the pandemic, there was this big push for subscription boxes.
Oh, sure.
So for women, it was like, hey, try the latest and greatest beauty products. Pay us $30 a month, and we'll send you 5 different things you've never tried, or something like that. And so many different stores found great ways, I guess, to do this through the pandemic because people weren't walking into their store. So I saw home decor stores saying, like, hey, once a quarter, we're going to send out things to help you change out your decor for the season.
Really?
And so
that's
they
genius.
get $100 and they'd ship these things because people weren't coming into the store. So they'd rather get $400, even if someone coming in might have spent $600, than than people not coming in.
Sure.
So once you increase your average sale, then if you can increase how often I'm buying from you, that's helpful. Another example of this I've seen is some remodeling companies where maybe they remodel and then they say, okay, but I see you don't really have anyone who's handy around the house. Why don't you sign up for our handyman subscription? And so in the spring and fall, we'll come and help you prepare for the change of seasons. And then it's a way for them to stay in with those customers that they might have not helped again until 10 years down the road when they wanted to remodel.
All right. I see that with our clients with the massage. They pay a monthly nut to get a massage however often.
Yeah.
See, IT companies do that as the pay a monthly nut as kind of a security thing so that if something breaks, you're not out that huge nut.
Yeah.
There's an interesting thing with snow plowing because snow plowing can do either every time it snows you have to pay, or you pay a monthly nut and just hope one of you is going to win. Either it snows a lot and you win, or it doesn't snow much and the plow guy wins.
Oh, that's so interesting.
But it's interesting from I guess a flat fee per month.
Yeah.
I found with our clients that if we charge them a flat fee rather than a fluctuating one based on minutes, they like the flat fee better.
Because they can plan for it.
They can plan for it,
Right.
yep. And sometimes they win, sometimes we win. I mean, in the end, I don't know, you do your best.
You hope that it evens out.
Yeah, and you sometimes have to raise rates if volume goes up and all that stuff. But it's interesting the psychology of that. You look at Netflix and all that jazz, or all those.
Or Amazon, which is the ultimate. You pay a subscription to then subscribe to your favorite products.
Right. Oh, that's funny.
So one more example, just for those folks who maybe don't have a product. If you're consulting, you're a thought leader of some kind, a membership where you show up for your people once a week, once a month, and just share what you have to share to help them grow.
Yeah, huge. The service thing is, totally gargantuan. I guess the challenge is trying to make that payment as automatic as possible.
Yes.
So they don't have to write you a check every month.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of one of those, you want it just smooth, easy.
Well, and I heard a business coach say once that if you can get recurring revenue to cover, say, 30, 40, 50% of your overhead, then it makes the stress of hitting your revenue goal every month that much less stressful because you already know you have this money coming in.
Right. Yeah, very true. With the rental stuff that I have, I try to make it as easy as possible for rent to be paid.
Yeah.
So then it's just silky smooth and people just come in, do their work, move on with their life, and you don't think about it.
Right.
Think of that with auto pay for your cell phone, for
utilities.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't even think about it, and a lot of times you don't even look at the price.
Right.
I asked my wife what we pay for electric every month, and she's like, I don't know.
Check the checking account.
And it's funny. I'm like, we should know that.
Right. So just reducing friction, I think, is another piece.
Yeah, easy as pie.
Yeah. So we shared with you today 3 strategies to increase revenue, and more so than just attracting new clients, but increasing your average sale, and then how often those clients can buy from you.
Awesome. This has been Diary of a Worthy Pursuit, how to get what you truly want in life and business.